BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Wake Up to Money from BBC 5 Live.
Hello.
Wake Up to Money with Danny Hewson.
Hello, it is Wednesday the 6th of May. The front page is dominated by three stories this morning. The fact the UK death rate is now the highest in Europe makes for grim reading. We're going to leave the story about the philandering professor alone, but we are going to talk furlough with our guest. For a lot of business owners, this is an absolutely torrid time, isn't it? But for others, it seems it could be an opportunity. We're going to talk now to Sukhi Jutla, who spent well over a decade in investment banking, but always harboured the desire to be her own boss. She started a publishing company, then a life coaching business. She's now concentrating on an entrepreneurial guide to developing an online marketplace for gold and diamond jewellery. Good morning, Sukhi. How are you?
Good morning, Denny. I'm fabulous, thank you.
Excellent. It's nice to hear some real positivity. Market Orders is the business. How does it work?
Absolutely. So Market Orders is on a mission to build a platform that cuts down on the time and effort it takes for jewellery retailers to liaise with gold suppliers to order jewellery products to sell in their stores. It's an area ripe for disruption where retailers spend hours on the phone to suppliers or visiting trade shows to stock their stores. And so that inefficiency also creates another type of inefficiency, that of gold waste. Retailers have to melt down a lot of gold products that they cannot sell. So what we're doing at Market Orders, it's almost as if it's the Uber for gold and diamond jewellery. We're matching supply and demand between jewellery retailers and the suppliers who produce the products.
So has the fact that people have effectively been stuck at home, been locked down and unable to buy in the traditional way, been a bit of an opportunity?
Yes. So like most jewellery retailers on the high street, they haven't been immune to the pandemic. They have had to close their stores, which effectively means customers cannot come in and they basically cannot buy the products. However, I think in a way, it's also highlighted the need for high street shops who don't have an online presence, that they do now need to embrace an online store. And many traditional jewelers in my industry typically believe that customers want to come in store and touch and feel the products before they actually depart with a large amount of money. But I think that this pandemic is really going to shift the mindset of those players in industries which are traditionally old school, where you normally go in store and you're dealing with high value products. So I think that we are going to see a shift of people becoming more comfortable making larger and high value purchases online. And I think this is going to make jewellery retailers more open to the fact that they do need to have a decent online offering, because, in most cases, people are still doing their shopping online in terms of research and finding the best product. And then they will go in store and actually make the purchase, because they still want to have that human touch and they still want to talk to jewelers to get that sort of knowledge and advice when they're buying something that's really special, such as a wedding ring or a special gift for someone's birthday.
Now, you obviously are in startup mode. We've spoken to startups who are doing incredibly well during this period. We've spoken to other startups that are really struggling. Have you looked for any kind of support package? Have you needed one?
Yes, so absolutely. With every startup, a definition of a startup, I guess, is you're always going to be limited with time and resources and cash. So yes, when this pandemic hit, I was worried about cash flow, because that is the key factor that we really have to focus on. So I did look at the various options that the government had put out. But unfortunately, most startups are pre-revenue. So in most cases, they are loss making. And many of the initiatives that the government has put forward are primarily for businesses that were revenue generating before the pandemic hit. So that has made it very difficult for startups to access some of the help that's been available. However, having said that, the startup community did get together a few weeks ago, and they did put some pressure on the government to tell them, we were struggling and that we had fallen through the gaps. And so that's when the Chancellor and the government announced the Future Fund package, which was effectively giving money to startups if they could raise 50% of the funds, and then the government would effectively take a stake in that particular business. However, again, there were numerous shortfalls, which meant that a vast majority of startups were already in a position that they couldn't access that particular Future Fund package because they had to have already raised a certain amount of funding. Yeah. So again, many startups did fall through the cracks again in that way too.
Yeah, I think a lot of businesses have struggled, although the bounce back loans seem to have been incredibly well received where people have been able to get hold of them. Well, Sukhi Jutla is still with us, co-founder of Market Orders. Hearing Jaga say everyone likes a beer delivery and there's still demand for beer. Really interesting text here saying by the end of 2020, there could be 90% unemployment. Who's going to be buying gold? There won't even be enough money to buy carats, let alone jewellery. Is that something you worry about?
Well, that's a great question, Danny. And, at the outset, you might immediately think that it is going to be quite worrying. But the latest data shows that gold prices have increased by 12% since the beginning of this year, as it takes on the role of a safe haven asset when economies are suffering. We've also seen large hedge funds are betting on gold. And there's also expectations that central banks' unprecedented economic stimulus packages during the pandemic will actually prompt devaluations in major currencies. So what does this really mean? I do think that the disposable income of people is going to dramatically reduce, by the end of this year. However, having said that, just before the pandemic really took its toll and the retailers were closing their shops, my customers were telling me that there were queues out of the doors because customers were coming in to actually sell back the gold that they had, so that the gold price had increased. So they were literally liquidating this asset. So I do think that when times are good, you're always going to have customers who will go in and purchase those, make those purchases, because gold is very intrinsically related to either religious festivals or, big occasions like weddings and birthdays. But also, on the other hand, when economies are going down, you are going to see that money is going to be flooded into the gold markets. Hedge funds and banks are going to be putting their money into gold as a safe haven. So I do think that there is, to put a pun, a golden lining in this industry.
Thanks very much indeed, Sukhi Jutla there from Market Orders.
Wake Up to Money from BBC 5 Live.
Thanks for downloading Wake Up to Money. We're with you every Monday to Friday, so don't forget to subscribe. And we'd also love it if you let us know what you think. Leave us a review wherever you download the podcast and get in touch. Use the hashtag Wake Up to Money on social media.